Ichigo Awakens by Talach in chapter 27, The Prelude to Change. The Prelude to Change. Outside the barrier, the announcement went out to the whole of Serete as the able captains and lieutenants congregated on the execution hill, all of them standing around a shining white pyramid with six sides, and held the traitors and Ryoka that elected to fight them. Some were calm, waiting patiently for their chance to jump in and either apprehend the traitors or save the new allies. Others were angsty, on edge, furious at the betrayal of who they thought they could trust. "Be ready, all of you," Yamamoto said with his soldiers released with their shikai, a few even calling out their bankai. Zoraki removed his eye patch and grasped his blade with both hands, a focused look making the wild berserker almost unrecognizable. "Kurosaki and two of his allies have trapped the traitors inside. Hope for the best, but be ready for the worst." Inside the barrier, Chad versus Tosin, Ichigo and Aizen clashed against each other, each side no longer holding back as they tried to kill each other. Ichigo couldn't really hope to match someone that mastered every aspect of Shinigami combat and had to rely heavily on his strength and defense, augmenting his abilities to come close to even with the power hunger madman. Their clashes rang like thunder as the ground fractured beneath them. Uryu and Gin were exchanging thrusts and shots as the two danced around each other with constant jumps from one place to the next until Uryu trapped him in a barrage of arrows that left Gin to only block and dodge as best he could. Tosin, already in bad condition, tried his best to keep Chad at bay. "Susumizu Nishi Benihiko," he called out, focusing all of the generated blades at his charging opponent. Dozens upon dozens of spearing blades shot at Sato as he continued his charge. He brought his powered right arm up to block the onslaught of blades, managing to deflect some, but still getting many blades cutting and stabbing into him. Suddenly, his arms flared with his reishi as he pushed the ground towards the blind man. The explosion fired a barrage of stone and dust at the blind Shinigami, making him stagger. As Chad closed in on him, he attempted to slash at the man, but he caught it in an iron grip, leaving him to resort to punches and kicks, which grew weaker and weaker as he lost more blood. "I honestly don't want to fight you," Chad said after the blows became less and less effective against him. You look like you're 1 foot in the grave already, and I feel like the bad guy for this." He lifted Tosin up to look into his blank white eyes. "But you've made yourself my enemy when you attacked my friend," he said with a glare before clenching his left fist. "So, for both of us, stay down." He then punched Tosin directly at the epicenter of his injuries and sent him flying back. He turned to his friends fighting, trying to decide who to help. Uryu versus Gin. "Just how fast is this guy?" Uryu screamed in his head as Gin kept with his barrage of thousands of arrows, blocking and dodging every one. The loud zipping of the constant releasing of his bolts mixed with the clang and thud of every arrow drowned out all else, leaving him open as Gin chanted his spell. A carriage of thunder, bridge of spinning wheel, white light, divide this into six. Bakudo 61, Rikujo Koro, Jin chanted, trapping Uryu in the binding of the spell. "Too bad for poor Ichigo," he taunted, ending up behind Uryu with his blade at the archer's neck. "Captain Aizen is still too strong for him. His Reiatsu is too dense and great." Uryu spared a glance at his cousin and the schemer he fought. To most people it was even, but Uryu could tell it was starting to wear on the hybrid, getting slightly slower in all aspects. Most concerning was his regeneration. "Damn it," Uryu cursed in his head. "I can't move. Wait, Kido is Reishi based, and Aizen's Reiatsu is enough to repel Ichigo. I've got it." He slowly used his Rasong Tankai and manipulated the Reishi around him to weaken the Kido spell and pull out a black Sele Schneider. "I knew this would come in handy," he thought before extending the black Reishi blade that almost stabbed through Gin's chest and head, forcing him to jump back. Uryu turned, breaking through the Kido, grabbed the black rod back by making its blade vibrate faster, and charged at the Foxman. Gin jumped back to avoid the slash and felt a looming shadow overhead. "El Directo!" Chad roared, firing an intense blast at the silver-haired devil, making him plummet to the ground. When he landed, he went over to his ally. "Uryu, go! I'll handle this," Chad tried to say before feeling a cut in his right shoulder. You should never turn your back on an opponent, Gin said cold and threateningly. The two glared at him before charging, Chad going for the direct approach while Uryu circled them. He's the enemy, Chad thought. He's siding with Aizen, someone Ichigo swore to kill. He was closing the distance between them faster and faster. Ichigo's putting his life and principles on the line to do what needs to be done. He fired a Reishi blast at Gin point blank, who deflected it with a wave of his hand. I am his friend, and I will match his resolve. He let out a roar as he slammed his left fist into Gin's stomach. There was a shock wave from underneath them and a blast of air and light from Gin's back, making him cough up a bile and blood from the unexpected attack. He flew back as Chad got ready for the next assault, his left arm coated in white with a single red line going down it. This should do it, Uryu thought. Gathering the energy from Chad's blast to further augment his own power, he aimed at the back of Aizen's head and fired the Selle Schneider. Aizen versus Ichigo. The two locked blades, fighting for dominance as the battle around them continued. They heard a loud whistle as Uryu unleashed the massive bolt. As it closed in on the two combatants, Aizen swiftly moved aside at the last second. Ichigo leaned back, the energy and edge of the blade cutting into his skin slightly. Ichigo leaned into slightly reached out and took hold of it. The energy mixed with the reishi he poured into it, seemingly catching fire and becoming unstable. As he brought the blade down on Aizen, he managed to block, but the combined unstable power tore through the sword and left a deep gash through Aizen's chest. Hado 88! Ichigo yelled out, holding an arm out, embracing it, preparing to use the powerful spell. Bakudo 81! Danku, Aizen responded, setting up the clear wall to repel the attack. Ichigo disappears from his sight as the hybrid skirted around the wall. He turned just in time to see the ball of crackling red energy in Ichigo's hand. He tricked me. Zero! Ichigo yelled, slamming the energy into Aizen's chest and firing it point blank. The explosion and recoil blasted him away as he tumbled on the ground. He slowly pulled him to his feet and saw Chad and Uryu struggling against Jin, who was moving much faster. He summoned up his own black bow and ready to take a shot, his vision getting gazier by the second until he felt a blade through his side. His strength left him as he turned to look into Aizen's cold glare, looking no worse than when they started, aside from the laceration and burned body with his shikakusho and Hiyori burned away. My patience with this has ended, he said coldly, ripping the blade from his sword through Ichigo's chest, slashing through his heart and lungs, and removing most of his right arm. Tosen tossed aside and forgotten, used his chance to destroy some of the metal stakes that held the Kido barrier they were trapped in. Aizen was about to kill Ichigo before Kenpachi came in through the newly made opening and nearly cut off Aizen's hand. Now! Tosen yelled, prompting both Aizen and Gin to cover their ears. Cry! Susumushi! The high-pitched ring emanated from his blade, shaking most of the gathered captains and lieutenants, which was more than enough time as beams of pale light surrounded the conspirators. Aizen took the chance to look around. Sure, there was another diversion he had ready, only to find the three gatekeepers he had under his command already beaten and unconscious. Kukaku and Jibanto's presence telling him all he needed. Well, this ended messier than I would have liked, he said with the barrier that the now revealed hollow made for him. But no matter. Try as you may, I will be the one to stand at the top of everything. He removed his glasses and slicked his hair back, while Komomaru yelled after Tosen, demanding what justice he's following. Ichigo! Uryu called out, barely conscious as he cradled his cousin. Ichigo, stay with me. Unohana already made her way to the hybrid along with Orihime, trying desperately to heal him, but the shock of seeing Ichigo on death's door shook her being and damaged her focus. All Ichigo could think of was the feeling of defeat. I failed. No matter what, he was always able to persevere, push himself beyond, but now Aizen has the Hokyoku. He was defeated, and they had the chance to stop a threat and focus on Yuhobam uprising, and now he laid here, feeling his life fade. No, no, he thought defiantly. I will not lay down and die. I will beat you, Aizen, Ichigo roared out, holding the stump of his right arm up as a gray mass swelled and exploded from his arm. The giant worm-like appendage rose towards Aizen and the massive gillions, opening a disgusting maw and unleashing 1,000 other mouthy tendrils that bashed feebly against the barrier and devoured what menos they got their hungry mouths on. This continued until Aizen and his allies disappeared, leaving behind a swarm of hollows to be devoured by Ichigo's monstrous arm. When all the hollows were gone, Ichigo's arm returned to normal as his body healed completely. Now unconscious from exhaustion, everyone looked on in shock at the young boy before Yamamoto stepped in. He did tell me that Aizen was experimenting with holification, he said as he made his way over to sleep in hybrid. He must have been the result of one of those experiments. Will have more potential to He'll have more potential to grow and evolve as a warrior. What we just witnessed was more likely a reaction to desire to survive and fight. I want him placed in care and under guard, he announced to the remaining captains. I will speak with him when he wakes up. When Ahana nodded at the others and summoned the best form of her Minazuki, directing Chad and Uryu inside it. And if I hear Kurisuchi got anywhere near that boy, there will be hell to pay. The next morning at Squad 4 barracks, the Cerete was still reeling from the events of yesterday. The squad of the traitors' captains were just barely held together at the seams until being directly commanded by Yamamoto. Thousands of souls recently appeared in Soul Society. Byakuya told Rukia of the truth behind her adoption into the Kuchi clan and begging her forgiveness. Yuriichi spent the night scolding Tatsuki for telling Soifon the truth and scolding Soifon for letting it affect her and get in the way of duty. Uryu got to work of fixing and replacing clothing damaged over the course of the invasion with near alarming enthusiasm. Chad went back to placing the remaining tags around Cerete, and Orihime never once left Ichigo's side, praying for his swift recovery while Kenpachi watched over the hybrid like a hawk. Why, Kenpachi? Captain Kurishitsu, you know you're not permitted to go near him, because Mayuri was dead set on studying the boy. When Hana patrolled the hallways while Saraki was the last line, as noon hit, Ichigo finally raised from his slumber. Ugh, what happened? He asked, thinking some of what happened was a nightmare. Aizen kicked your ass and escaped, Saraki said bluntly. Your arm exploded into a monstrous hybrid thing that ate out a couple dozen Menos Grande, and you were out cold for the rest of the night. It's noon now, and we're still dealing with the fallout. So, part hollow, huh? Yeah, Ichigo responded, petting Orihime's sleeping head on his lap. I'll explain it all later. I don't care how or why, Ichigo, the scarred man said. My only concern is that you keep your word about our deal. Ichigo thought for a second. Well, if Urahara can be trusted, then my potential is near limitless. I heal from crippling injuries in a near instant, and I've yet to really tap into what I'm capable of. He noticed Saraki was trembling in excitement. When I get the plan, Saraki, I've got a feeling that I'll be busy for a little while. Kenpachi nodded reluctantly, knowing their rematch was going to have to wait. Ichigo, Orihime mumbled as she woke up. She saw her lover awake and alive and proceeded to pull him to her chest, bawling her eyes out about how scared she was. Ichigo was flailing wildly at the lack of oxygen. After finally prying himself free, she looked him square in the face. You need to talk to Rukia. Now, she said, unusually stern for the normally bubbly girl. Okay, he acknowledged, remembering the surprise kiss he gave her. But I do need to check on someone else first, he said, getting up and dressing after Soraki and Urihime left the room. Soraki dragging her out. He found his new outfit, a sleeveless shikakusho with the wild red tribal markings with a white undershirt with a more ordered blue pattern and a five-pronged manji on the chest, each end tipped with the Shiba clan symbol and a facsimile of his hollow mask on top it, along with a note saying, "Just try it, Uryu." After addressing him, he left the room to find his cousin. Ah, Ichigo, he heard a lamented the skeletal clown man say. So happy to see you finally awake. Would you like to come with? Bala, Ichigo said, not even sparing a glance as he flicked a non-lethal ball of energy at Mayuri's head, sending him flying. Everything around him was mutated as he followed the dim, weak red suit trace that was now what remained of Uryu's power. Just enough to see spirits, he finally found his cousin as he was sketching a new outfit design. He beamed seeing his cousin. Ichigo, I see you're in the new outfit I made, he said, jumping up and checking the measurements again to make sure everything is fit right. I want to make sure something that really spoke about you. Those Shinigami robes are just so bland, with each one being practically the same. He was going on and on about the lack of aesthetic with Soul Reaper's uniform before Ichigo stopped him. Uryu, are you alright? Ichigo asked. Why do you ask? The Quincy responded, his eyes darting away from the hybrid. You always get really into your tailoring hobby when you're depressed, Ichigo bluntly stated. I do not. Uryu scoffed. Peeping out your possessed teddy bear? Does that sound familiar? Ichigo said, reminding Uryu of an earlier instance. Hey, Khan looked much better for it, Uryu defended. Uryu, I can see the bags under your eyes. How many sets of clothes did you make? Ichigo pushed. Two each, the archer admitted. Okay, I see your point. He looked at his now bare hand and the purification cross he wore. I was hoping to do more to at least get rid of one of them, but now they're gone. They won, and what do I have to show for it? No powers, he said, clenching his fist as tears welled up in his eyes. We were supposed to stay by each other. Now I'm useless. He felt Ichigo wrap him around him. You saved my life, Uryu, Ichigo said. That's got to count for something. Uryu returned the hug. We'll figure something out. We've got Ryuki and Urahara and all the resources of Soul Society. You'll get your powers back. If not, you're still a better tactician than I am. Uryu let out a chuckle. Yeah, okay. Now let go. I don't swing that way, Uryu said, feeling his mood lighten up, much to the disappointment of many of our female classmates. What do you mean? Ichigo asked as they separated. Never mind. I don't want to know. He got up to leave. I need to find Rukia. Any idea where she is? Uryu pondered for a second. Well, I heard she talked to Byakuya, but the better bet is that she went to the Shiba clan, he told him. Got it. See ya, Ichigo said, already planning to make his trip. Wait, give this to her, Uryu said, pulling out a light blue sundress with a dark blue wave design. I got a little carried away and made her one too, he said, almost embarrassed. Ichigo looked at the clothing Uryu made and back to his cousin. The doctor with his own clothing line, he said, folded the outfit and tucked it away. If this was anyone else, I'd never believe it. Shiba clan. Ichigo made his way through Soul Society, receiving a message from a Hell Butterfly to see the head captain as soon as possible, until he finally made his way back to the current home of his clan. The sun was starting to dip into the horizon when the house came into sight. Kukaku was stomping on Ganju and ordering him to work harder. I heard you were dead weight and caused everyone trouble, she yelled. If you gave our cousin a bad image of us, I'll be twice as harsh. I don't think it's fair to compare the two of us, Ichigo said, finally interrupting Ganju's torture. I wasn't exactly raised soft, Kukaku. The clan head made her way down to greet her family with a smile. Nice to see you back, kid, she said, giving his butt a firm hard smack before leaning in and giving him a hug. Heard you did real good out there, and Yudorichi shared some juicy stories between you two, she whispered hotly in his ear, making Ichigo turn into a strawberry. Can't wait for my turn, stud. Ganju, Ichigo said louder than intended. I heard Rukia was here. Is that right? Oh yeah, Ganju said, confused about what just happened. She came to apologize. Sis told her to see his shrine to get some closure. I'll show you the way, he said, walking into the underground mansion, Ichigo speeding his way to follow. And damn, Kukaku said, looking at the palm of her hand. That was a really toned ass. Thank you, Yudorichi. With Rukia. She was sitting in front of a wooden shrine, housing flowers, sweet incense, and two pictures, one of a man and the other of a woman, Kane and Miyako Shiba, Rukia's idols. She was offering her prayers for their peaceful rest and apologizing for the thousandth time, unaware of the hybrid coming in. So that's Kane, huh? He said, coming in next to the petite Soul Reaper. That really is an uncanny resemblance. Yeah, Rukia agreed. He was also hot-headed and acted out of a personal desire to help people, for no other reason than they needed help. You would have liked him, Ichigo, she said, relaxing a little bit. Ichigo smiled at her as she reminisced. Tell me more, he said, prompting her to talk about her first day in her squad, the apathy Kanan showed her as a noble and treated her like a person, the kindness he gave her as she grew into her own as a Soul Reaper, the day his wife was murdered by a hollow, his fight in possession, and his death by her hands. He saw her tears dripping down, wetting her purple flowering kimono, the pain from that day resurfacing on her. He pulled her into his lap without warning and held her tightly. He doesn't blame you. No one does. You gave him peace, Rugia. Now live on like he wanted you to. If you need a shoulder, I'll be there, he told her, after blinking in shock as his words finally registered. She relented and let all of her tears pour out in Ichigo's chest. They were trapped in her own world. They were trapped in their own world, unaware of a few ladies watching them. So we're gonna let her in now, aren't we? Tatsuki asked, a little annoyed. Her face was bandaged from the sparring she had with Yurorichi. Though it helped in the long run, it was still a low thing to do to a fellow disciple. Orihime was doing her best to hold back the tears. How can we not, Tatsuki? She cried in sympathy for their friend. She went through so much. She needs some good in her life. She wrapped her arms around Tatsuki as she couldn't hold back the tears. Yeah, and she's pretty nice, and she's a pretty nice girl to have around. Plus now there's two girls to kick his ass into gear now, she thought, relenting to the idea of allowing Ruki into the club. We'll talk to her later. Gotai 13 meeting room. Night had fallen. Most of the Soul Society was asleep now, resting and recovering from the events from earlier that day. All but the unlucky groups pulling nice patrols, the captains that would determine the future of the upcoming war, and the hybrid that seemed to be at the center of all of it. They all stood in attendance, the captains flanking down both sides, with Genryuasin at the head and Ichigo in the center. There are many questions to ask, Ichigo, Yamamoto started, but very little time to get any answers, so for now, only the necessary ones. Are you in complete control? My power is mine to wield, sir, Ichigo answered, firm and confident. We are not at full strength right now. Will they return? Yamamoto asked, referring to the Visors and his mentors. They are expecting to return, he answered. How soon can you get them? Everyone looked at him expectantly. Ichigo quickly turned around, reached out, and tore a portal open in the air. Tomorrow, most likely, he said, having never traveled by his own Garganta consciously before. Sakukyo Hill, the spirit conversion lesson came on. Everyone gathered at the feudal gateway back into the Dangai and to the living world. Ichigo palming his chest that held the message from Yamamoto to their lost allies. Though you were initially enemies, you've shown yourselves to be allies to Soul Society. Genrusai announced to the gathered Ryoka. Be wary, for you've also marked yourself as targets by Aizen. Chances are he'll send spies or assassins to watch your back. The coming months may prove trying, but together we are fighting for more than just stability. Be ready for when we call on you, and pray it never comes to that. The old man nodded at Ichigo as they started going through the gate, one by one. Before he went through the gate, Rukia came forward. She was wearing the sundress Uryu made and sporting a heavy blush. What is it? He asked, just before she slammed her lips against his. You better take responsibility for taking my first kiss, Ichigo, she stammered before kicking him through the gate. The only thought going through his head was, what just happened? Zilburn, the shadows of Serete. He sat up, he sat upon his throne, watching from the shadows of his enemy's domain, slowly gathering his power, his cold glare locked on the two mixed-blooded Quincy that survived his holy cleansing. Udryu showed loyalty to his friends, but foolish sentiments to his true family. Ichigo was one to be wary of, already proving himself as a potential special power. It was becoming more and more evident that his wayward child needed to be shown the light. Harshwalth, he spoke to his chosen second, his dark, heavy voice echoing throughout the dark corridors of the royal chambers. It seems my child of darkness needs some guidance to his true destiny. Go and select a couple of the Sterators to keep an eye on him. Do the same for Ishida. The blond man bowed in reverence. As you command, Your Majesty. End of chapter 27.